Hello and welcome to another episode of Soft Signal. It's a bit of a sad atmosphere today, but we'll dive into that a bit later. My name is Varun. I'm joined by Aditya. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. It's definitely a little bit of sad atmosphere because of what happened last week.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was quite an anticlimax.
yeah, waited for so long. Of course, sorry if anyone doesn't know, we are talking about the World Test Championship final, which have finished on Wednesday. New Zealand beat India by 8 wickets. I think fair to say deservedly so. And they finally won an ICC title after many years of trying, so good for them, but it did come at the expense of India. Uh, and yeah, it was just a weird match from start to finish. It was 6 days because they wanted a reserve day in case of rain, which was a good decision in the end. And even with 6 days, it was difficult to. There was a very high chance of a draw. So, what do you think? Let's start with your opinion about the match. Were you obviously disappointed, but beyond that, is there anything you
Yeah, I
feel?
mean,
What's your immediate reaction?
my immediate reaction was that there was too much of rain in this match. The like the first day was completely washed out. The third day was completely washed out. The fourth day was also washed out.
Yeah,
And even on the other day, on the other days, there were some rain interruptions also. So it's always a big dampener when these matches get so heavily impacted by rain. Okay, so I think from that from that perspective, it was a little bit boring almost because you look forward to it and then this happens. On the other hand, it's quite interesting that there was a result in effectively 3 days of cricket, um, which means that the days on which the game was being played, it moved really fast, which is down to the fact that the conditions were obviously conducive for bowling because it was overcast for the most part, and it also means that um, the batsmen clearly were not equipped to handle those conditions, especially India's batsmen.
yeah,
So yeah, it was quite disappointing from that sense, but well done to New Zealand. I think they outplayed India in all departments of that game. I think it was pretty evident.
yeah. I think on based on the first innings, it was kind of like we bowled well to get them out. It's been revelation and a change in Indian cricket that I personally trust bowling more than batting now, which says something. But again, our bowlers outshone the our batsmen. The second innings, like yeah, the target was too less, so they can't really fault the bowlers. They did try, but target was way too less. I'm disappointed. I wonder if New Zealand's, and I'm sure it did, but they did play two test matches before. The conditions suit them better as well. We only got to play intra squad games with no match practice. Most of them have played the IPL, I don't know, 6 weeks ago now. So yeah, I mean, all of that played into the picture. But yeah, no excuses for the batting performance, especially in the second innings. I think it was a it was uninterrupted by rain. It was they honestly just had to play another hour and maybe 30, 40 more runs. We could have been at least a draw. Should have been.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It was quite abysmal, the second innings especially. And this seems to be a trend with India's batsmen. The third and fourth innings of test matches, they never seem to turn up,
Yeah,
which means that they're clearly not handling the pressure well enough. Right? There's a lot of pressure in the third and fourth innings, pressure to set a target or pressure to chase a target, and somehow with they don't seem to turn up consistently. Okay, they do turn up sometimes, but this needs to be more consistent. So they turned up in Australia, but they've not turned up here. Even in the previous series against England, they didn't turn up in the third and fourth innings, which makes me think that there's a problem in our batsmen, especially when it comes to face the swinging ball.
yeah,
So in conditions like Australia, for example, where the ball doesn't swing, they handle it. They handle it quite well, right? They're able to negotiate the bounce and everything. They're able to do that. But when the ball is swinging in the air and seaming off the pitch, I think that is where they really struggle. So they're unable to negotiate these kind of situations, and that it puts too much pressure on the bowlers to always keep them in the game.
Yeah.
So if you get out for like 210 or 250 or 220 in your first innings, it puts too much pressure on the bowlers to keep you in the game. They can do it once, which they did in the first innings, but then the batsmen have to show up in the third innings, which they did not. And then, of course, you can't expect your bowlers to defend 140. It's just not on. So
Yeah.
there's a problem with how they play the swinging ball, is what I feel.
Yeah, I was smiling halfway through your comments because this was what you just said. It was I could just we would flip it around and talk like 5, 10 years ago. Like our
Yeah.
batsmen are putting the runs on the ball, but the bowlers are letting them down. And now it's just flipped around. I mean, I just
Yeah.
find it. It's not. I don't know the word, but it's just. It's the mindset has just shifted so much. It's a revelation. Um, But yeah, I agree. Even during when New Zealand were chasing that 140 in the last innings, I texted you. I said, "How are they doing it so easily? We would have been 50 for three at this point." Because that's you're right. We just don't. I don't know if it's a mental issue or what, but part of it is we can't play the swinging ball. But we just I don't we've lost a lot of close test matches this way in South Africa and in England in their last cycle as well. So yeah, we either dominate the test match and have a big lead and then we capitalize, but we close matches we seem to falter when it gets difficult.
Exactly. And there's also one interesting thing that struck me about this match, uh, and on the subject of swing bowling. Okay, I think the three bowlers that we selected, uh, apart from Ishan Sharma, they are predominantly seam bowlers, which means that they hit the deck and the ball moves, and that's how they generate lateral movement. So none of them is an out and out swing bowler, which sometimes is more valuable. It's more valuable to have an out and out swing bowler in English conditions as opposed to seam bowlers.
Yeah,
So you think of the likes of Jimmy Anderson, right? Swing bowler. You think of the guys who were playing for New Zealand, Trent Bolt, Tim Southee, Kyle Jameson to some extent. These guys are all swing bowlers. So and swing bowlers in English conditions are probably tougher to face than seam bowlers in English conditions simply because they tend to pitch the ball up and get it to move a lot more, which induces edges and brings the slips into play, all of that stuff.
yeah,
Whereas India's three seamers are not really swing bowlers, right? They don't swing the ball in the air that much. Um, I know that it sounds very easy to say this in hindsight, but um, bowlers like Bhuvneshwar Kumar would have been very useful on this surface. And it made me think of the last time India was in England in 2018, and the one Test match which we did win was when Hardik Pandya had this spell in the middle of the Test match where he started swinging the ball and he took 5 wickets.
yeah,
And all of them, if you look at those wickets, are wickets resulting from the ball swinging, right? And of course, there was no Hardik Pandya this time. I'm not saying he would have again swung it, and that would have been the difference. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there probably is a lack of an out and out swing bowler even amongst this really strong Indian bowling lineup. So when I mean, in conditions like Australia where the ball doesn't swing, these bowlers are lethal, and they're lethal in general as well. But in English conditions, you probably need an out and out swing bowler to induce these edges and fall shots from the batsman. I think that's what that was probably lacking in our bowling attack as well.
yeah. But let's talk about Hardik Pandya. Uh, I'm picking that up from what you said because I think he would have been a really valuable addition to the squad, not just for this match but for the series against England, because he does in overseas conditions, especially in England, provide that all-rounder position which we really need. And as a result of that, him not being there, we have to resort to things like playing five bowlers, out of which two are spinners, because our two spinners are decent enough batsmen as well. Our fast bowlers are none of them can hold a bat. So we need someone at, like, you could have played Vihari and had Pant at seven and then had four bowlers, but then so yeah, it just messes up the balance of the team. And with that said, do you think they had any other options this match, or anything they should consider for the England series? Because Pandya is not going to be there, so they are
Yeah,
pretty much stuck with these guys.
yeah. Pandya not bowling is a huge loss to India actually because of the balance, like you said. So the only other solution would have been Mohammad Siraj. Then, had Mohammad Siraj been in this team, it would have meant that one of the fast bowlers would have, or the fast bowlers would have started. One of them would have started batting at 8.
Yeah,
Which, so with Mohammad Siraj in the team, it also would have meant either Jadeja or Ashwin. Now, even though Ashwin is a better spin bowler than Jadeja, the fact that he doesn't bat as well would have meant that Jadeja would have made the team in the end, simply because you cannot go in with your top six batsmen and then have a sudden drop, right? Like, let's face it, Ashwin is not a great batsman anymore.
yeah,
He's not going to get you 50s and 70s batting at number 7. He'll probably just get you a 20, and that's not enough from a number 7. So I think Jadeja would have made the team at the expense of Ashwin. Siraj would have then slotted in. But then, if you look at it, Siraj isn't an out and out swing bowler either. He's probably more of a swing bowler than Shami and Bumrah, but he's not an out and out swing bowler. And then, in hindsight, when you look at what happened in this Test match, Ashwin took 4 wickets across 2 innings. In fact, in fact, there was a period where he looked like the most threatening bowler. So with Ashwin's current form, you probably have to think twice before dropping him. Uh, so I think it would be a very bold decision if somebody brought Siraj in for the next game and kept Ashwin out. Uh, on the flip side, it would be an even bolder decision if you bring Siraj in, keep Jadeja out, and have Ashwin bat at 7.
that's a scary
So
thought.
it's a difficult situation. Although I think that it's best to still go in with this team. Remember that this in this match there was a lot of rain, so the pitch was obviously sweating. There was humidity in the air. The ball was obviously going to swing as a result, and there were going to be no foot marks because they only played 3 days.
Yeah,
But this is because it rained. In the India England series, I'm sure it will rain at some stage, but uh, it's not going to wash out entire days um, of test matches, simply because of the probability of stuff like this happening again and again is low, right, across a 4 match test series. So I think in terms of overall team balance, this is still the best team, and they need to at least go with this team for the first 2 test matches of that series, and change the team around after that if the results don't go their way.
yeah, they have 6 weeks to think about it. The next match is only on 4th of August, so
Right.
long time. I hope the batsmen have a look at themselves. And I mean, these guys, the exception of Gill, they are all experienced. Even Pant has played in England before and in Australia. So they really need, like, that second innings is so disappointing.
Yeah.
Need to get their act together, get some kind of game awareness, and they can do it. I mean, they're really good batsmen, but they need to sort themselves out, especially since they know that then they'll have more confidence to bring in people like have four fast bowlers and one spinner, because then your top six at least are going to um, handle the batting. So yeah, that's something they need to figure out.
Yeah.
Let's move on quickly to our next topic, which is this was a one-off match, which most tournament finals are one-off matches, but Kohli came out, and to his credit, he didn't come out and say this after they lost. He decided before the match started as well that, in his opinion, this should have been a best of three. Um, My personal opinion is that I think one match is enough, is okay, because it is a tournament. And yes, you might not have the best team winning, but in any tournament, you don't. That's what the beauty of tournament play is, right? That someone can upset um the odds and win on that given day. And this is a test match, so it's not even like a as much as the lottery as a 1 day or T20. It's a 5 day test match. So I think having a one off is okay. Um, and then even if you have best of three, do you have one in? There was a suggestion that you have one in the home country, one in each country of the people play, and then the third match in the neutral. So I don't know, man. It doesn't. That would be logistically difficult, and I think it's just one off is okay. What do you think?
I have a different opinion on this one. So I think it should be a three match series.
Mm-hmm.
I think that because the World Test Championship cycle is such a long cycle, and when I say that, I mean it's like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the difference between this and the World Cups and the shorter format events is consistency over a long period of time. We're talking about consistency over 2 years or 3 years, depending on the length of the cycle. So I think that if a team is showing consistency in winning series over such a long period of time, then it is unfair for the finals to be decided on the basis of just one game. It's
Mm-hmm.
only because of the consistency over a long period of time. That's my opinion, of course. And then, like you said, you still prefer the single game format. But I just think that um, it's impossible to sort of judge a team that has shown consistency over 2 years with just one game. Then, of course, I think it is indeed a logistical nightmare to have the finals played in the home country of each of the teams in the neutral venue. I think that is logistically impossible, especially now because of COVID. But I think in that case, still a three-match series in the same venue would
Mm-hmm.
be better, because it also then allows the team to come back. It allows them equal time to acclimatize and all of that to the conditions. So yeah, that would be my take on it. I would still think a three-match series is better. In fact, I think that if this World Test Championship were to go on, I think all Test matches should be a three-match series. So not a two-match series, not a
Yeah.
five-match series, but a three-match series. At least that will allow all the teams to play against each other in the entire cycle. Because I don't remember Bangladesh playing Australia. I don't remember Sri Lanka playing England in England. I don't. I think a lot of the teams haven't really played against each other. So I think the first step is to find a way to make all the teams play against each other, and only then is the tournament legitimate. I understand that there was COVID and all of that, so last year was no cricket. But I think even if COVID had not happened and they would have played cricket last year, even then all the teams wouldn't have played against each other. So I think
Yeah.
that's the first step, and then the next step is to address this issue about the finals.
Yeah, I mean that would have been ideal, with everyone playing each other, and but then you have to have only Test cricket happening, and then it's also it's difficult because different seasons in different countries where cricket can be played. So I think yeah, that's difficult. But then I want to ask you another question. If you the idea is to see who's more consistent over time and reward that team, then would you want to have just a league phase like how they have in football, for example, where you have over a period of time you have 38 games or whatever, and then the team with the most points at the end wins. So why do you need to have a final at all then?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, just have a league phase then. Uh, yeah, I mean, of course, why not? That could be an alternative solution.
Yeah.
The only thing is that the league phase. So you mean the league phase will also include three test matches,
Yeah, let's assume we can have that,
right?
but you just have league matches. You don't have any knockouts or final or anything.
Yeah, I mean that could also be one solution. Uh, but I think if it's a tournament, uh, then maybe a tournament, uh, the definition of a tournament is to have a semi-final and a final, right? Uh, I think the idea of the league phase is not bad. I mean, you can just have a
Yeah,
league phase and then you have the winners announced in terms of points and all of that. But I think the semi-final and the final probably just adds to the pressure on the team and kind of enhances the viewing, is what I think. Uh, but for sure, the league phase is also an interesting idea. I didn't actually have it. I never actually thought about it, but it could be an interesting idea as well.
yeah, I just thought of it while we were talking actually, but because I'm just trying to draw parallels to other sports who've had
Yeah.
these kind of tournaments for a while. Um, one downside I think of having just a league would be if there was like if this was held 20 years ago, Australia would have just dominated from start to finish, so there would have been no interest after a certain point. You would just have one,
That's
but then that happens in football also sometimes. But yeah, this is cricket. I think ICC also wants to have like one big showcase event at the end
yeah.
of the cycle also.
I think it's good though that they are having this Test Championship. I think the concept of the Test Championship is a good concept. Uh, it's happened the first time, so obviously there are going to be flaws, and that's why we are talking about it as well. But it's the first time, so there will be flaws. So there's a lot of scope for improvement, of course, and that's basically what we're discussing. I think the concept is good, and it's also good for Test match specialist players, right? So people like Chiteshwar Pujara and Rahane, these guys don't play white ball cricket, at least not for India, not for the not, and there are similar players in other teams. So for those players, it's also very beneficial for them. Like they actually get to be a part of an ICC event. So therefore, I think the concept of the World Test Championship is a good one, and I think what needs to be done is just that the second cycle needs to be tweaked a little bit so that it becomes more efficient and relevant. I think the relevancy is also important because we're talking about this cycle going on for 2 years, so there needs to be some sort of drawback to not drawback but some sort of connection that the viewer should have, right? Like we are sitting here discussing about the finals right now, but the whole tournament, if I may call it that, started 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We don't remember what happened 2 years ago. So there needs to be that sort of recall, right? Recall is the word I'm looking for, some way to create some sort of recall so that the tournament is even relevant from a spectator's point of view.
Yeah, 100%. So let's hope. I think they've already come out with the fixtures for this cycle,
They have,
but
yeah.
let's hope they can all happen. And because it was weird, this one they had COVID, so they had some kind of average system that they used to get the points, and so it was a big mess. But it's over. Hopefully, this cycle can go out without hiccups, and then if they have another one after this, they can look into making it more equal. Okay, I think last topic we wanted to just speak about, hopefully briefly, but where another ICC tournament, another final, India has lost. So now they have lost 2014 T20 final, 2017 Champions Trophy final, and this final. They also lost in the semis in the 2015 World Cup, 2016 T20 World Cup, and the 2019 ODI World Cup. So are we the new South Africa?
Oh, this is a tough one. This is really a tough one. I mean, for me, I think so. I think the difference with versus South Africa is probably that the South African players weren't able to handle the pressure. At least this is what we think from the outside. Okay, we never know because we're never in that dressing room. But we think that the South African players weren't able to handle the pressure. I think with India, that's not the case. I think all these guys are are very good at handling pressure because of the IPL. Okay, so the younger players know what pressure is, they know how to cope with it. I think the problem the problem with India seems to be um, it just seems to be that they lose their minds probably for 1 hour, right?
Yeah,
Um, I think there isn't enough um, of calculation put behind some of the decisions that they make, which means by that I mean that they seem to be rash, over aggressive decisions. Like sometimes you need to also soak up the pressure and not transfer the pressure. I think the second innings was an example of that, right? They came out after lunch and they probably needed to bat 1 hour right after that, just bat sensibly instead of trying to attack and transfer the pressure. Had they batted 1 hour sensibly for 1 hour, they would have at least drawn the game. And let's face it, the way the game panned out, that would have been the best. That was the only possible result for India. India was not going to win that match from that situation. So they didn't do that, and so they ended up losing. In the previous the 2019 World Cup, okay, good bowling and stuff like that. But again, were the shots were the batsmen, the selections on the day apt or not? Dinesh Karthik didn't play a match in the whole tournament, and suddenly he's in the semi-final team, batting at number four. You expect him to just run with it. It's not that easy. Um, what happened before that? 2019. Before that
And in
was
2017, that was just an off day against Pakistan. Like we
yeah,
just
2017. 2017, I agree, was just an off day against Pakistan. I think our bowlers didn't turn up. But I think there is a bigger question over here of the approach to difficult situations doesn't always have to be overtly aggressive.
yeah,
There needs to be some thought
some
to
more
it.
thought, right? Yeah,
Exactly. You can't just always come out all guns blazing. It doesn't work like that. And also the selections. I think like the Dinesh Karthik example, they clearly had not thought what to select. They just said that okay, here's an experienced guy, and he just go out there and manage it. But let's face it, Dinesh Karthik had not played a match that whole tournament. He wasn't really a regular in the India setup before that even. He was a regular in T20 cricket, not in ODI cricket. And
yeah.
in this match as well, I mean, Rishabh Pant for all the hero, great stuff he did in Australia. Again, when the ball is swinging, you cannot step out and just swing your bat.
You
There
can't
has
just
to
play
be a
one way. There has to be some adaptability, man.
I mean, there's a reason, right? Sehwag didn't have very good averages in South Africa and England. It's simply because you cannot just swing your bat there; the ball moves. Whereas in Australia, the ball is not going to move. It's more about handling the bounce. So they are able to, swing their bats and stuff. They don't get so many edges.
Yeah,
So that's the kind of thought that needs to be put in. You cannot just be playing one way every time and everywhere.
yeah. It's very frustrating because getting to the fine, especially after that 27 to 12, 2007 to 2013 period where we won three tournaments and were so good in finals. I mean, not so good. Actually, the two of those finals, all those finals were pressure games, but we
Yeah.
handled the pressure so much better. Maybe it's a Dhoni Kohli thing. We'll get into that at a different podcast, I think. But yeah, we have the T20 World Cup this year, next year, and then the ODI World Cup in 23. Hopefully, we win at least one of those three tournaments. Uh,
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, we can win one of them. Um,
I mean, Rohit Sharma reached, he deserves the ICC title. It'll be sad if he doesn't have one.
exactly. And honestly, I'm okay with India kind of starting the tournament slowly, right? You much
Yeah.
rather prefer that to happen, like lose matches in the beginning of the tournament, and then as the tournament picks up, you pick up as well. I think we just go into the tournament. We're already at our best, and then we just the decision making is probably not ideal in the knockout games. Is what I feel.
Yeah,
But
like 2007 T20 and 2011 World Cup, we were not that great in the groups, but then we picked up towards the end.
exactly, we picked up,
Yeah,
and I think that's also what a tournament is, right? It's the tournament is not about the best team coming into the tournament. It's about the team that adapts the best during the tournament
yeah,
to the pressures and the situations. So hopefully the next time an ICC tournament comes around, we don't face New Zealand in one of those knockout games, because they all. So New Zealand has always beaten us in the last few
Yeah.
ICC events. Huh? It's
Only
like
2003 World Cup we won.
yeah.
Other than that, they lost.
I mean, you think back to the 2016 T20 World Cup in India, the first match of the tournament, they just smashed us. I mean,
Yeah.
it,
And they got only 110 or something, and
yeah,
we got 80 all out.
80 on that exactly. So yeah, so we don't face New Zealand, and we finally get over the hurdle of these knockout games.
Yeah. And we lose a match early. That is it.
Yeah, that's
And just speaking of the 2021 T20 World Cup, and we'll talk about it later, but the venue has been officially shifted to
to the
UAE
UAE.
and not to
Yes,
India. So it's expected, but we can talk about what that means in some time later.
yeah,
Okay, I think that's it for this episode. It's it was a disappointing experience, but hopefully as we build up to the England series, who knows? We can England don't look too great either, so maybe we can win that series. But we'll talk about that at a later time. But thank you for again listening to us, and we will be back soon with some more cricket chat.
yeah. Thanks a lot. Stay safe.